Our first guest on the program this morning is Resources and Northern Australia Minister Matt Canavan, who joins me from our Brisbane studio. Thanks very much for your time, Minister. Look, a miraculous win, no doubt, but it is also far from a landslide. The incredible element, I suppose, where the government came from. Do you see it as chiefly a rejection of what Labor was offering?
Well, look, I think elections are lots of things, Tom, but I think ultimately it's a rejection of a philosophy that would like to fundamentally change our country. I think most Australians think that we have a pretty good country. They're sometimes disappointed in their elected officials, there's no doubt about that, and I, for one, never present myself as being perfect, but I don't think the Australian people think there are things that are radically wrong with our nation that requires radical change. And what Bill Shorten was offering the Australian people was radical change, radical increases in taxes, radical increases in spending, radical increases in new policy proposals like cutting our carbon emissions unilaterally, which makes no sense at all. So I'm glad that those kinds of things have been rejected, because I think our nation does best, our governments do best, when they stay very strong to strongly aligned to the practical interests of Middle Australia, helping them get ahead in their lives, improve the world and the country for their children. That's what I'm back to doing this week. I'm down here in Brisbane speaking at a mining conference, pushing the case for us to open in the Galilee Basin and get these jobs finally going.
Performance of the Nationals Party, there was talk beforehand of a slew of seats possibly going. That didn't happen. Is Michael McCormack ensconced in the leadership role now? Well,
Michael McCormack's done a great job. He's been vindicated by this result, as has the whole Nationals Party team. It has been a team effort. You know, we've, as a party, very proud of what we do and achieve, and we do it for our local people. We run very local campaigns and focus on local concerns that provide practical benefits to people. And the fact that we've been able to, over 2 parliamentary terms, after winning a landslide election in 2013 and taking seats which we rarely hold, like Capricornia around Rockhampton where I am, in 2 full parliamentary terms, to build our vote, our primary vote's grown over both elections, to have held all our lower house seats. We unfortunately lost Fiona Nash through citizenship issues. It's been a remarkable outcome, and I just think testament to the hard work that members like Michelle Landry, George Christensen, Ken O'Dowd there in central Queensland, and Kevin Hogan down in Page. We just get out and about among people and say, okay, you want a hospital, you got a car park at your hospital in Rockhampton? We deliver that. It makes people's lives better in Rocky. You won't hear about it on Sky News, but that's where politics is at its best, and that's what we try and do with the Nationals Party. We give everyone a platform here on Sky News, all sides of the debate. Yeah, you've heard about it now.
Just on that leadership, though, because there were murmurings beforehand. We've had Barnaby Joyce put out smoke signals, if you like. Do you see Michael McCormack as a lock in this job right now and off into the future?
Well, look, I see no reason why, Tom. Why not? Sorry, Tom. I mean, the Nationals Party pretty rarely changes leaders. I think we're up to about 12, maybe 13 in 99 years this year, 100 years next year as a party. We're a pretty stable force. Obviously, it was unfortunate that circumstances occurred a couple of years ago, but these things happen. So we've moved on with it. We've got a great team. It is a team effort, particularly when you're running those local campaigns, right? It doesn't work just having a fantastic leader, but no troops on the ground. You've got to run the local campaigns we do in regional Australia. You've really got to have local champions on the ground pushing your policies, and of course, as I said, responding to the local concerns and issues that are in any individual seat.
Okay, just alerting our viewers to some pictures we're getting in at the moment. Scott Morrison meeting they're walking in the room at the moment, so he's going to be meeting with the Reserve Bank Governor, the Treasurer Secretary, as well as the Treasurer is there as well, I believe. So we'll take you to that if we hear any words from that meeting. But we'll go back to this interview for now. So we'll take you back there as soon as that begins. Into a couple of the issues within the election, Matt Canavan. There's a talk about climate and what this meant exactly. Scott Morrison did make a virtue of emphasising climate credentials in the lead-up, rejecting calls to get out of Paris, spending billions more as well and reducing emissions. Do you agree that he saw taking climate change seriously as vital to being electable?
Well, I mean, I suppose I'd want to characterise this time, particularly such an important policy area, as it's not about being electable or not, it's about doing the right thing for our nation and the world. Like, what's the best policy to tackle the issue of climate change? And there's an issue in climate change, it's a global issue, and that's why sensible policies that seek to act in unison with other countries are the most sensible things to do. That's what we've committed to do, and I think that's been endorsed by the Australian people. We'll get on with the job of doing that and meeting our Paris targets just as we met our Kyoto targets. What has been rejected, I think, clearly by the Australian people is any proposal to unilaterally increase our emissions beyond the rest of the world, because that doesn't make any sense. Why should one Australian lose their job for no environmental benefit? Because there'll be no environmental benefit.
You do have, I guess, electorates up against each other. When you look at some of the inner city ones, Warringah just one, for example.
Look, again,
pretty big climate element there, wouldn't you say?
But this is, I mean, I'll just come back, Tom, I'll try and come back to the idea that maybe we should base our policies on what's best for the country, not what might, impact on one seat here or this vote there. I know that that's what interests a lot of Canberra analysis, but, I try to take the job as a minister seriously about, what's best for the world.
I'm more saying, it is spread that some of those seats seem to really go against the Labor message. So
if you were to put to me
the climate one.
Yeah, but if you were to put to me, Tom, that, OK, I can win the election if I adopt a policy that would put a few people out of work up in Rocky, where I'm from, but it would help us win the election, I wouldn't be up for that. Like, that's not right. It's not the right policy. I don't think that's what the calculus is before us anyway. Even the political calculus is not there. But let's try and get the policy right. And I think we've got a pretty good policy settings here. We've made ambitious commitments under the Paris Agreement. Obviously, we hope other countries meet their commitments, but further action on climate change beyond the Paris Agreement is going to take further key commitments from countries all around the world, not just from Australia.
OK, well, that is a watching brief, I suppose. Adani, that's still in the hands of the Queensland government. Have you had discussions? Is anyone having discussions to try to reach agreement? Because right now it seems like more like a public, dispute. Realistically, you have to get them to approve this as this is going to go ahead. Are you having discussions?
Well, I have discussed matters with a number of state Labor MPs from my region. I know they're very worked up about the situation and would like to see progress, because they get the first-hand feedback that I do in North and Central Queensland, that people want jobs and people have had enough of the rubbish that's spewed out from the Labor Party on this, the weasel words around, we support Adani if it stacks up, or but this. I mean, it's all just rubbish. And
right,
people
and that was the election stuff.
That's
but have you had discussions, I guess,
Queensland.
Since the election, or would that be the approach, that you'd go, look, here's where we have our mandate from, are you going to come to the table on this?
Well, I talk regularly with the Queensland Resources Minister, Anthony Lynham. I think his heart's in the right place, but the problem is Jackie Trad. And I know Jackie doesn't take my calls, Tom, but Jackie, she's running the state. She's running it on her short Lime scooter ride from West End to 1 William Street, the Tower of Power here in Brisbane. She doesn't seem to care or take much interest in what happens outside of that little circle. She talks down and patronises our regions, because she says we've all got to retrain, the coal industry's dead, which is absolute load of rubbish, just incorrect and wrong. You'd think she'd know that as the treasurer of a state that gets billions of dollars in royalties. So the Queensland government got to change their approach here, and if they do anything less, if the Queensland government does anything less than approve the Adani mine, they haven't listened to the Queensland people. They keep trying to take full-page ads in newspapers saying they support the resources sector. No one's buying it. No one's buying it. Approve the mine, just approve the mine, and get on with the job of creating these jobs.
Matthew Canavan, thanks for your time as ever.
No worries, Tom. Have a good day, mate.